There is a massive Eagles trade incoming as a report has just revealed a trade involving A.J. Brown after his rough start to this NFL season. In today's video, we're going to cover who exactly this player is, what compensation the Eagles might receive in an A.J. Brown trade, and how exactly this is all going to break down for the Philadelphia Eagles this season so far. How's it going, folks? I'm your host, Jack Kieley, for today's edition of Eagles Digest. So let's get into these reports and the potential A.J. Brown trade that could potentially happen after his social cryptic media messages that he's been posting online and, obviously voicing his frustrations with this team after not being involved in the offense. So let's just take a look at this report that says the rumors are saying that some executives think the Eagles could entertain a potential A.J. Brown trade in the offseason. Brown's love-hate relationship with the Eagles' passing game is reportedly one of the league's worst-kept secrets, and Brown's frustration with the state of things is boiling over. Now, of course, we made a video about this yesterday covering Nick Sirianni's and Kevin Patullo's comments on A.J. Brown's involvement in the offense. And of course, obviously, it has not been a good start to the season. So far, he's only had one game over 100 receiving yards. Obviously, he has been kept to, I believe, 38 receiving yards per game this season, which obviously is super, super below expectations of A.J. Brown, who is a top 5 receiver in the NFL when healthy, top 4, honestly. But yeah, obviously, the frustrations for A.J. Brown are boiling over, of course, because, when you're a star receiver, you want to be involved in the offense. You want to feel like you're making an impact. But if we go into this trade rumor a little more, we'll see that the writers at Sports Illustrated suggested that the Eagles should trade A.J. Brown to the Denver Broncos. And if we take a look here, they say that a proposed trade for A.J. Brown to the Broncos would involve a third-round pick and wide receiver Marvin Mims. Now, of course, I think that this is a little blown out of proportion because we've seen this kind of stuff from A.J. Brown before. He obviously, every wide receiver gets frustrated with their targets, their touches, and I don't think that a trade is really necessary at this point. We're only one quarter into the NFL season. We're actually, ironically, going up against the Broncos this coming Sunday. But I don't think a trade is necessary at this point. Like, obviously, the Eagles have to start clicking on offense a bit more, and that's going to take time. You need to obviously go into the locker room, speak with your quarterback, speak with the offensive coordinator, watch the film and look at what you guys can do for the rest of this season to get each other more involved in the offense and work together. The writer in the Sports Illustrated article is also quoted saying that as for the team, perhaps the cap relief and the day 2 pick will aid the Eagles in the long run because it's difficult for the team for the good teams to pay everyone. Then again, Hurts throwing to DeVonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Mims isn't good enough for the Eagles to capture back-to-back Super Bowls. This is a tricky one, but one worth monitoring because Brown is clearly frustrated with his role. Of course, I think you hit the nail on the head there saying that losing A.J. Brown for Marvin Mims would obviously pretty much defeat our chances of repeating as Super Bowl champions. And, Dallas Goedert is also injured now as well, and he's been one of the primary passing targets for Jalen Hurts for big yardage and touchdowns. So, losing A.J. Brown at this point is kind of not an option because we need him on the offense. Jalen Hurts is going to find him eventually. He's going to get him the ball. He just needs to make his reads. The offensive line also is a little depleted right now as Landon Dickerson is playing through a meniscus injury when he had his surgery back in August. We know that Lane Johnson has also not been playing to his full ability because of his neck strains. He left the game early on Sunday against the Bucs. So, overall, this team kind of just needs to recollect themselves. They need to obviously get healthy. They don't need to force themselves to play. They need to just kind of come together, watch the film, make sure that everyone's on the same page and work together as a team, obviously, to help win more games. They're 4-0 right now. They've bet really good teams so far this season. They've obviously kind of lost this in the first half and the second half. The Bucs came back in the second half on Sunday. That was a little scary to watch. And of course, it happened last week before against the Rams in the first quarter where they just could not get anything going. But of course, they retaliate, they come together after a half, and they come out and they win the game. And just to circle back to a part of this article where he says the cap relief, if you take a look at A.J. Brown's contract, he is one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL, well-deserved, of course. But Howie Roseman is one of, if not the most talented GM when it comes to, moving the books around, making sure that everybody can get paid, having the best players available to, make sure that, you're not going over the salary cap, you're retaining all of your elite players so that you can keep competing for a long time. And, it's really looking like that so far for the Philadelphia Eagles. We have so many good young players such as Jahad Campbell, who's just looked absolutely fantastic besides Zach Bond this season. I think he looks like a top 10 linebacker, if you ask me. And of course, we do have Nakobe Dean, who has his practice window opening back up, which means that he could be back on the field. And that might just be one of the best linebacker trios in the NFL. That might just be an unstoppable line behind the defensive line, especially. I think that in coverage, in pass rush, and in run defense, they will just be a force to be reckoned with. But just looking back at the salary thing, even if hypothetically the Eagles did trade for A.J. Brown, the Denver Broncos trade for A.J. Brown and get Marvin Mims in return, I don't necessarily know if the Broncos can even afford a player like A.J. Brown. They have Bo Nix now, and he's going to be looking for an extension soon enough. I believe they did just recently extend Cortland Sutton as well. They did also extend Patrick Surtain, who got a big payday. So I don't even know if they would be able to give him the money that he wants, obviously. But regardless of these trade rumors or whatever, I don't think that it's going to happen. I think that it's a little ridiculous. I want A.J. Brown on this team for as long as humanly possible. It's obvious that him and Jalen Hurts have a great relationship, a great connection. We've seen it before. We've seen these kind of rumors in the past. We've seen them kind of have their little tensions here and there, but I think this is kind of just blown out of proportion overall. But getting into some comments that Kevin Patullo made about A.J. Brown's involvement in the offense, he's saying that I think at times through the first 4 games, he's been doing different stuff. Sometimes the ball finds him and sometimes it doesn't. Going into every game, you plan on making sure he's the primary. If it doesn't go his way, it means usually we're on rhythm. Jalen is reading it out and it's going to other guys. That can happen. If it happens, it happens, but you don't want to force it. So, obviously, Kevin Patullo and A.J. Brown have spoken on his involvement in the offense. If you take a look, actually, at his numbers this year, he's really not collecting that many passes, that many targets across the middle of the field, which is really where he thrives as a wide receiver. So they really need to kind of just have a meeting together and really figure out what kind of routes he wants him to run, whether that's, like the mesh spot routes or the crossers. And maybe they should incorporate some more play action to get some bigger yards. Saquon Barkley is kind of another issue to get into there with his yards per carry. But, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Give me a score prediction for Sunday's matchup against the Broncos. Give me your opinion on this trade rumor. Do you think A.J. Brown should be traded? Do you think he should not be traded? Let me know down below in the comments. And as always, guys, go Birds. Thank you.